What happens if they're not acceptable? Your recommendations are not acceptable to the parties. What will you do then?
I find that hard to believe for this reason. For this reason, I like to think that we all have the same concerns and the same aspiration. That is, we want to bring the reform that the Rakyat want. I appreciate that the political parties may have some difficulty in explaining this to their grassroots supporters, to their divisional leaders, but I don't think that that is such a huge problem that cannot be overcome. Now, I think at the end of the day, these political parties will come round to see the utility. After all, some of these individuals, I won't mention names, have been courted by some of these very same parties for some time. They've wanted these individuals to join the parties, but these individuals have resisted, and for a long time they have refused simply because they don't like the idea of getting into a party setup. Now, go back to 2008, 8th March. Wee Choo Kiong stood on a PKR ticket. He never joined PKR. Jayakumar stood on a PKR ticket in Sungai Siput and whipped Sami Velu. He never joined PKR. I don't know about Zul Nordin, whether Zul Nordin, yes, Zul Nordin joined PKR. I think PAS offered an Indian lady an Adun seat in Johor without her having to join the party. So there is a precedent. This is not something that the parties have not tried before. We are not asking them to get into new territory, uncharted territory. The difference is this: what we're doing is we are pooling these independent candidates. We are offering them to the political parties, but we want to make this very clear. These are independent-minded. Let me explain that. By independent-minded, I even mean they are independent of MCLM. We do not ask these candidates to swear allegiance to MCLM. We want them to be taat kepada rakyat. They're supposed to be pro-rakyat, not pro-MCLM. We want them to come together as a group. We will be facilitating this, that they brainstorm and they work out the reform agenda that they want to take into the political arena. I'll give you a simple example. ISA, OSA, Sedition Act, these are all acts of parliament. If you have a reform government post-13 GE, in the first sitting of parliament, bills could be tabled to repeal these acts, because you only need a simple majority. You're not amending the constitution, all right? If you have a reform-minded government. Now, the idea is these individuals are going in with a reform agenda that they themselves will formulate. We will create the platforms for them. Now, what we will spell out to the political parties is this. Say if of the 30 that we have, if you take 20, and if the 20 contest on your tickets, they get into parliament, they are independent. But they will abide by your whip as long as the issue taken by the whip is pro-rakyat. Now, these parties say they are pro-rakyat anyway. So they should have no difficulty with that condition. These MPs, independent MPs, will abide by your whip as long as the issue taken by the whip is pro-rakyat. The moment you take an issue which runs counter to the interests of the rakyat, they will break rank. But I understand these parties position themselves as being on a pro-rakyat agenda. So we are on the same page. No problem. I don't see why in that situation, if the parties in 2008 have been prepared to accommodate such an arrangement, why they should have that difficulty now? Like I said, I appreciate that they would have difficulty explaining to grassroots, but guess what? We could go down together with them to the grassroots to explain that there is a need for this. We are going to raise the benchmark in parliament. Hopefully, perhaps, we may force parties to reconsider offering people like Bong Mokhtaradin, all right, who really should be sent off to some museum somewhere, all right? We force the benchmark. We raise the benchmark. That's the objective.
But going back to the question, if your pool of candidates are not accepted, by whether PAS, PKR or DAB, what's next for them? Will they stand as independents?
Now, this is what we will do. We are hoping in the first week of January to host a Congress Rakyat. Yeah? MCLM is hoping to host a Congress Rakyat, perhaps together with other NGOs who may already have endorsed this initiative. And we hope to get a larger civil society involvement from the Congress Rakyat. We hope by the third week of January to be able to invite the political parties to a round table to present this initiative. I appreciate that the parties may not be able to make a decision on the spot. They will need time. Fair enough. What we will then do is we will deploy these candidates to the constituencies that then have already by then been identified, and to get them to start to work the ground. In a sense, what we are doing is this. We are putting our products on show to help the political parties decide. We will get these candidates to turun padang, to start to work the ground, to start to play the role of shadow MPs, all right? To perhaps start doing in those constituencies that we've identified as weak, what the MP himself or herself should be doing, all right? And I am very confident that the leadership of the parties concerned, that if we all share a common interest in bringing about the necessary reforms, will themselves objectively see the inherent value, the intrinsic value, the quality that these men and these women bring to this initiative. We will leave our doors open up to nomination day. That means, for instance, YB Lim Guan Eng can call me and say, Haris, I like him, I like her, come, take. Because these are candidates that we are offering to the parties. And we would have, guess what, we would have started the groundwork for the parties, all right? And you call me on the eve of nomination and say, I like him, I say, take. We are open. I understand that there may be this initial difficulty. They need to go back, they need to discuss with party leadership. So in order to help them make decisions, we will deploy the candidates to ground, get them to start their work. Our message to the parties being, we are open to your taking them even on the eve of nomination. Can't be fairer than that, man.
But if on nomination day, they still won't budge,
then I leave the public to guide us. Say for instance, if we deploy a candidate to Setia Wangsa, I think that's Datuk Zul Hasnans. Am I right? Datuk Zul Hasnans. Say we deploy a candidate, we deploy Malik Imtiaz there, and he's worked the ground for the last 4 months, all right? But still the political parties don't want to take, all right? Maybe we'll use a poll to get the voters to perhaps give an indicator. Who would they prefer? The problem is this. Most political parties will keep their candidates close to their chest and only disclose close to nomination, which again is something that's most unfair to the voters. All right? So now if the voters through a poll have indicated that they like Malik Imtiaz in Setia Wangsa, for example, I would hope that that poll might guide the political parties. But if the political parties still say no, and then say they produce, say Zul Nordin goes back and kisses and makes up with PKR, and Zul Nordin is now offered in Setia Wangsa, I think it would be irresponsible if we yanked Imtiaz out of Setia Wangsa. I think at the end of the day, if we talk about being fair and being responsible with the voters, then I think the political parties themselves have got to be responsible in offering candidates of quality, candidates of integrity. Again, I said we are raising the benchmark. Now, you've rejected a quality candidate we are offering you to stand on a ticket where in Wangsa Maju the last round you allowed this process. Now you're saying no. I think you owe the public an explanation why. If you tell us that there's something wrong with the candidate, share with us. All right? But otherwise, look at Batu Sapi. All right? We all wanted a straight fight, a straight contest. Ideally, PKR and SAPP could have sat down and done an objective assessment and picked one. But what happened ultimately? They all went in. It was a three-corner. There was no civil society involvement, but it was a three-corner fight. And when we looked at what was going through the media, Yong Teck Lee's campaign team were bad-mouthing Ansari's manifesto, dragging out the dirt, past dirt. Ansari's team was doing the same for Yong Teck Lee's campaign. The final result, Linda Sen just walked through. All right? So here there was no civil society. We were urging that they should sit together and objectively choose one. That never happened. We can still do this in the general election. If we have already deployed our candidates to ground, the political parties haven't disclosed theirs. They are in a position to evaluate ours, evaluate who they were looking to propose, and if they find, look, it's the same, then sit down with us and say, look, our chap is on par with yours. And if it's true, then we back off. What we want to make sure is you do offer quality candidates. I'm saying in a situation where you acknowledge that on all counts, we have offered a far more superior who has gone to ground and has started his work. Why are you rejecting him?
But if push comes to shove, they may stand as independents in a three-corner fight.
I will be guided by the public. I'll be guided by the public. If as I said, if a candidate has worked the ground for the last 5-6 months and has built up such a traction with the voters, and if the voters say, look, we want to know who you are offering before we decide whether we want to reject him, then I think the voters have spoken. And if the political parties say people are the boss, then let's all walk that talk. Let the people decide.